welcome to SJ Weekly, guys, for this week. I know last week there was a few complaints about the fact that there was no slurping of the usual daily coffee, so I will, of course, cut right to the chase. You know what? If I could, I would always have that first sip of coffee over and over and over again. It's the best part of coffee. I know this is coming out a day late. I'm very sorry about that, but it's not like I did nothing yesterday. The January community stream was held on this channel yesterday. All people who either sub to me on Twitch, on my Twitch channel, or they give at least $5 on Patreon, which, by the way, you don't have to worry about anymore because Subscribestar now works. But basically, if people financially support the channel, they come on a voice call with me, and then we watch a movie together. And that was yesterday's stream. So even though SJ Weekly is a day late, I didn't do nothing yesterday. And in fact, we had a lot of fun watching the fourth and final Channel Awesome movie. It was fucking atrocious. And speaking of Subscribestar and Patreon, yeah, Subscribestar's actually working. So I'm going to be setting up the Subscribestar account in the next few days, but it is operational. So if you want to support the show financially again, and you left Patreon and you're looking for a way to do it, you can go to subscribestar.com/shortfatotaku. But let's get on with it. Here's this week's ridiculous account. Her name seems to be Hikyu Mikado, a real space girl visiting virtuality. I'm sure you are, darling. Activist against evil. Well, who isn't? I'm a Christian. I'm a lesbian. I'm ENFJ. I'm Mercurian, social justice warrior, vegetarian, something in Japanese, and #resist. I'm surprised there's no pronouns in that bio. So Elizabeth Warren posts something about how, due to the government shutdown, domestic violence shelters are cutting services due to lack of funding. And I mean, that is a problem with a prolonged shutdown, is that a lot of services that need funding don't get it, and that's something that can't be ignored. But Elizabeth Warren, bless her heart, says Donald Trump and the Republicans are making a choice to keep survivors of domestic abuse in danger rather than reopen our government. #Trump shutdown. Maybe you guys should come to the table and work out a deal on the wall then. You already know what the Republicans want. Try to cut a deal. Stop being obstructionists. But anyway, here's our terrible account. Hikyu Mikado. #expel Mitch McConnell and open the government. I don't know if it's quite that easy. Vote on the budget you already had with bipartisan support. If they actually had bipartisan support, they would do that. They clearly don't have the support for their budget. If #Traitor Trump vetoes it, override the veto with that same bipartisan support. Yeah, that's not how it works. You can have enough votes to pass a bill, and then when it's vetoed, you have to have even more votes. It's not just casting the same votes again. I don't think you understand how your government works. Rescue the 800,000 federal workers that Trump has held hostage, like he's holding a fucking gun to their heads. #save USA from fascism. Nothing that's been described in this situation is fascism. In fact, what would be fascism is ordering a government back to work that did not agree on something. Let's move on to our first article today on Vox. And right away I notice, where did our ads go? Yeah, I ad blocked them. Fuck you, Vox. I hope you start firing people too. Social media is rotting democracy from within. How social platforms enable far-right politicians' campaigns to undermine democracy. I can already tell exactly why they're saying this, and it's because despite all of the terrible shit social media companies have been doing recently, and they've been doing a lot of terrible shit, there's still a little bit of impartiality to them. I've seen SJWs on Twitter get fucked by the rules designed to protect SJWs. So very clearly, it's not a perfectly biased system yet. And right now, the positions of conservatives are more amenable to the general population than the positions of leftists. And there's no surprise as to why that is. It's because the left abandoned liberalism. The left abandoned personal freedom. It abandoned property rights, freedom of speech. And the right decided to swoop in and claim those things. And since most people like those things, most people are now starting to go right. And because the marketplace of social media companies is inherently based in freedom of speech, even as they try to suppress that speech, there's always going to be a bent towards freedom on any social media platform. And if it's the conservatives that are taking up that position politically, they're going to be popular on those social media platforms. It makes complete sense to me. Even as, like, YouTube and Reddit and Facebook and Twitter all start censoring people, there's still a cry for freedom on those platforms. There's still people finding ways to work around the rules. There's still people finding ways to fool the algorithms. And at some point, when all of those safety measures, those stopgap measures are closed, the social media network in question will likely die the same way that Tumblr died. Because, to put it plainly, the people desire freedom, and social media networks offer freedom, and the less freedom they offer over time, the less popular they're going to be in the long run. But yeah, that's what this article's likely about. I'm just guessing, I haven't even read it yet, but basically that because the left has abandoned freedom as a political principle, and social networks are inherently based in freedom, now it turns out that far-right politicians' campaigns use social media to undermine democracy. No. They're not undermining democracy. They're undermining you. At the inauguration of Brazil's new far-right president, Bolsonaro, in early January, a crowd of his supporters began a surprising chant. They weren't cheering for Bolsonaro or his running mate or their party. Instead, they were reciting the names of social media platforms. Facebook, 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 the crowd yelled. WhatsApp, WhatsApp, WhatsApp. They were crediting the platforms with their man's victory, and they aren't entirely wrong. During the campaign, a conservative pro-business interest group funded a massive disinformation campaign on WhatsApp. I'm sure it was disinformation only. False and damaging information about Bolsonaro's left-wing opponent, including fake news mocked up to look like neutral fact checks, spread like wildfire in the run-up to the October 8th vote. This deluge, according to one Brazilian expert, played a role in Bolsonaro's victory. I mean, couldn't it also be the fact that Bolsonaro's popular? That maybe some of the things that he wants to do, a lot of people in Brazil like, and the freedom of speech that social networks afford them allow them to collectively talk about the things that they like about Bolsonaro, when in the past that wouldn't have been possible without social media. And that really is what this boils down to. Even the more oppressive social media networks give the plebs a way to voice their concerns, as well as to group up together in ways that they wouldn't have been able to before the internet, and spread their ideas. And the people that hold cultural power right now, which are people on the far left, don't like that. They don't like the plebs speaking up. They simply want to speak for the plebs. Social media, once seen as a profoundly democratic technology, is increasingly serving the needs of authoritarians and their allies. No, it just turns out that it's still a democratic technology despite how much they're fucking it up. It's just that you are against democracy now. That's the point. The people are switching away from your political point of view, so you think that social media networks are to blame. Social media can certainly help pro-democracy movements at times, but they overall give far-right parties and authoritarians an advantage. Well, keep in mind that authoritarians can be far-right or far-left. Being a tyrant is not exclusive to one political stripe. Nazis might be far-right tyrants, and communists might be far-left tyrants, but they're still tyrants. And I have to ask you this, why do you think that social media gives far-right parties and authoritarians an advantage, and not far-left parties and far-left authoritarians an advantage? What's the difference? Why is it that only the right benefits from social media? Is it because the left can't meme? That's definitely a possibility. Or is it because far-left extremism is just really unpopular right now, and social media lets people talk about that? Maybe that's the advantage. I'm sure at some point in the future, far-right extremism will become unpopular again. Certainly more unpopular than it already is. Because these things seem to work in a pendulum. And there's going to be people like you, probably at Vox, applauding social media for allowing young leftists to voice their concerns about the populist far-right. But right now, because they're against you, they give authoritarians an advantage. This is just so fucking transparent and disgusting. And you know what? It's on Vox, so I'm not surprised. Over on The Pluralist, we have bikini climber freezes to death on mountain while waiting for help to arrive. What? A Taiwanese social media star known for scaling mountains in the semi-nude was found dead after falling into a 100-foot deep gulch on Monday. Jesus Christ. The day before, 36-year-old Gigi Wu, known online as the Bikini Climber, had tumbled into a ravine in Yushan National Park, where she tried to scale the country's tallest summit, Taiwan News reported. Her leg was injured by the fall. Wu immediately called a friend and reported her location to the best of her ability. Yet it took security forces more than 24 hours to locate her, by which time she was already dead from hypothermia. Maybe you shouldn't... I know it's a bit too late to talk about this now, Jesus Christ, but maybe you shouldn't climb mountains in a fucking bikini. Like, I get it, that's your thing, right? Like, you're gonna be a social media star, you're gonna have a gimmick. There's your gimmick. Be a good-looking girl, climb mountains in a bikini. I understand. But maybe it wasn't worth fucking dying for. While daredevil tragedies are nothing new, the promise of social media exposure has enticed many inexperienced attention mongers into taking on increasingly dangerous and sometimes deadly challenges. Examples transcend age and country. A Romanian teen who caught fire after trying to take a selfie on top of a running train. V, is that you, buddy? On the BBC News, we have speedboat killer Jack Shepherd. Georgia link confirmed. There's a speedboat killer? Okay. Let's read the article. Police in Georgia have confirmed that they are working with the Met Police to track a fugitive who was convicted of killing his date in a speedboat crash on the Thames. He killed his date. Okay. In a speedboat crash. Like, maybe... I mean, if the speedboat crashed... Does that really mean that you killed your date if you crashed your speedboat? Like, I don't know how it works. I know that in a car, like, if you're driving a car and you like accidentally get into a crash in your car, are you held liable for murder if a passenger also died? Like, I don't know. Maybe. It doesn't necessarily seem right, but I don't know. Jack Shepherd, 31, was sentenced to 6 years in July for the manslaughter of 24-year-old Charlotte Brown. However, he was absent from his trial after fleeing the UK in March. And he went to Georgia, so he just made bail and ran. Okay. Shepherd made his first appearance at the Old Bailey on 26th of January, where he entered a not guilty plea to a charge of manslaughter by gross negligence. Okay, so he wasn't murder. Manslaughter by gross negligence. He was somehow negligent. What actually happened in the event, though? After meeting on the dating website OkCupid, Shepherd took Miss Brown on a date on the 8th of December 2015. He spent £150 on wine and food at a restaurant in the Shard before taking Miss Brown on a speedboat he claimed he owned. Okay, here's the map of their little speedboat trip. 1. They board the speedboat at Hammersmith Bridge. 2. Jack Shepherd drives the boat at speeds of 26 to 34 knots. I don't know if that's too fast. Like, I don't know anything about boats. And they drives it to 3, so he drives all the way up to Westminster Bridge, turns around. At 4, around Battersea Bridge, Charlotte Brown takes control of the boat. And then at 5, near the Plantation Wharf, the boat veers left and hits a submerged object. Miss Brown and Shepherd were thrown from the boat when it hit branches in the water. Shepherd was found clinging to the hull, and Miss Brown was pulled from the water unconscious and unresponsive. A post-mortem examination found she died from cold water immersion. Hold on a minute. If she took the control of the boat at 4, isn't she responsible for her own death? Like, what? Why is he a speedboat killer? He wasn't even driving the boat. Like, if she wanted to drive, and he handed the control of the boat over to her, and then she crashes the boat, killing herself and almost killing the guy, why is he the killer? Why is he somehow responsible, even through gross negligence? Are women not considered full adults in the UK? Maybe he fled to Georgia because he knew that as shitty as the UK is right now, he wasn't going to get a fair fucking trial. And speaking of the UK being shitty, it was revealed that dozens of girls subjected to breast ironing in the UK. Perpetrators consider it a traditional measure to stop unwanted male attention. An African practice of ironing a girl's chest with a hot stone to delay breast formation is spreading in the UK, with anecdotal evidence of dozens of recent cases. Community workers in London, Yorkshire, Essex, and the West Midlands have told The Guardian of cases in which preteen girls from the diaspora of several African countries are subjected to the painful, abusive, and ultimately futile practice. You know, if you're gonna import people from wildly different cultures than your own, this might be a good reason as to why there should be an impetus that they assimilate into your culture. It is fine if African people move to the UK to become British. It's fine if Middle Eastern people move to the UK to become British. But if they want to keep doing the same bullshit that turned their countries into dusty shitholes in the first place, they should probably fucking stay there. You can call me a racist all you want. I do not want to see preteen girls have their chests fucking ironed in the UK or in Canada or the States or in any other first world nation where we have moved beyond this type of stupid barbarism. One woman living in the suburbs of an English city told The Guardian how she went about ironing her daughter's chest at the first sign of puberty. I took the stone, I warmed it, and then I started massaging my daughter's chest. And then the stone was a little bit hot. When I started massaging, she said, "Mummy, it's hot." The child developed bruising, and the mother was eventually questioned by police before being released with a caution. Just with a caution, guys. You can't actually arrest her because this is her beautiful native culture. You can't actually arrest her for fucking child abuse, because it seems that no matter what, the only thing that British police do is give out cautions. That's all they do. When something is way too serious and pretty much requires somebody being thrown in jail for the rest of their fucking lives, they get a caution. But also, when somebody does absolutely nothing wrong, they still get a caution. It's cautions for everyone in the UK. UK man details run-in with Britain's thought police. No crime has been committed, but I need to check your thinking. No, you don't. The police do not need to check your thinking. They do not need to check my thinking. Until I break the law, the police can fuck off. At some point, I'm going to have to do a video on just how shitty the UK is, because I keep seeing more and more of these ridiculous stories, and things do not seem to be getting better. A former police officer in the UK has had his thoughts checked by police, claiming to represent the LGBTQ community. Humberside police tracked Harry Miller to his place of work after acquiring 30 tweets, including a number of limericks that he had liked from his personal account. He liked them! That's the problem. He pressed the fucking like button on Twitter. According to the officer, Miller had not committed a hate crime by liking the tweets, but the event was still to be recorded as a hate incident. They really are watching fucking everything at this point, are they? After being subject to a 30-minute police inquiry, Miller was warned to watch his words or risk losing his job, as potential LGBTQ employees would not have a safe space if they decided to work for Miller. Following the incident, Miller posted a series of tweets detailing the account. Got a call from director saying cops wanted to speak to me. He had sense not to give out my number, but he said he'd pass on details. I rang. Spoke to PC from Humberside, introduces himself as representing the LGBTQ community on a report of hate speech by me. They found me via my company, had been all over the website, and decided if I employed trans people at all, it was not a safe place for them and work should know. The cop said he was in possession of 30 tweets by me. I asked if any contained criminal material. He said no. I asked if any came close to being criminal, and he read me a limerick. Honestly, a limerick. A cop read me a limerick over the phone. I said I didn't write that. He said, but you liked it and promoted it. I asked why he was wasting his time on a non-crime. He said, it's not a crime, but it will be recorded as a hate incident. So I've added to a statistic, even though there is no crime, which brings me to my next point. I asked how could there be a victim if, as he's established, there was no crime. He said that's just how it works. My comment was that by framing the complainant as a victim, this made me by default a criminal. I asked him to desist from using it. This is where it gets incredibly sinister. The cop told me that he needed to speak with me because even though I'd committed no crime whatsoever, he needed, and I quote, to check my thinking. He said sometimes a woman's brain grows a man's body in the womb, and that's what transgender is. You can imagine my response. Lastly, he told me that I needed to watch my words more carefully, or I was at risk of being sacked by the company for hate speech. At which point, I wished him well and said I needed to go rinse my socks. According to Humberside Police, a hate crime is anything that you think might have been motivated by hostility or prejudice. To become a victim of a hate crime, you don't even need to be the target. You simply have to witness somebody being targeted and you're granted victim status. This is ridiculous. This needs to fucking stop. Period. This is something that everybody has an obligation to oppose. This will be how the new tyranny of the 21st century is built. Through bullshit like this. And we can thank the SJWs for popularizing it, and far-left politicians for empowering the state to act on this bullshit. It has to stop. Alright guys, I'm done. Man, it gets more and more disheartening the more videos I make, I have to admit. Oh, fuck me. Thanks for listening. I do really appreciate all the support. As I said at the top, Subscribestar's up. You can hit up subscribestar.com/shortfatotaku if you feel like financially supporting the show. As usual, I stream on Twitch 5 nights a week, twitch.tv/gameboomers. Tonight the plan is that me and two friends of mine, we're going to be playing through the newest episode of Life is Strange 2, which is another SJW piece of shit. We're going to play it, laugh at it, it's going to be a good time. Swing by around like 7 p.m. EST, I'd say. Between 7 and 8 p.m. EST. Come say hi. I'd love to see you there. I'll talk to you guys later. I love you.